I grew up in an alcoholic home. My father's an alcoholic, and he was a very damaged man. And so I went through a lot of verbal and emotional abuse. And there was a guy who was not my type. He wanted to go out with me. He just kept asking and asking. And I ended up marrying him mostly because I wanted children. So, of course, he had to go. It was getting too much. But he'd cheat on me and I'd throw him out and he'd cry and he'd say he was sorry. He'll never do it again. I love you. I would take him back. That could only happen so many times. So I did not fight God. But I was, anxiety and depression. I found out later in life that I have them as illnesses, but I didn't know that. I just thought it was my circumstances. I couldn't date. If I went on a date and he found out where I was, he would come there.
Oh my goodness. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Life as We See It podcast with A and A. Welcome to another episode of our podcast. On today's podcast, we have a special guest. We have Mimi Tallo joining us today all the way from Florida, from West Palm Beach. Yes. Welcome, Mimi. Mimi is a published author and the founder of Be Heard, Empowering Yourself podcast, where she provides a platform for people of all gender, race, ethnicity, to come share their story and be heard. People who have been in abusive relationships, toxic situations. She's here today with us. She'll be sharing her true life story with us, and she's authored so many books. She's going to be sharing the basis for her first book, which is a memoir titled Raised by Wolves and Trapped by Demons. So I'm excited to have Mimi here today. Thank you so much, Mimi, for joining us. You're welcome.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, thank you, Mimi. So Mimi, let's just go straight into the podcast. So can you start with sharing some of your story, your background, your early childhood experience?
Sure.
How did you grow up? Where are you from? All of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll try to condense it. That's why I wrote the book. All of that is in the book too.
Yeah.
But I was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania. That is where our president was born, Joe Biden. He is older than me, so he had moved away when he was about 10. So I never really got to know him, but we knew his brother. Very nice family. So Scranton was, back then in the 50s and 60s, almost completely white city. There were very few Black people or Puerto Ricans or Mexicans or Asians. And I didn't have a lot of contact with other races other than white. And also it was very prejudiced religion-wise because the Catholics wanted to stay with the Catholics, Protestants with Protestants. Now, that was our parents, that wasn't us. So my generation kind of changed all that, okay? And I grew up in an alcoholic home. My father's an alcoholic. He was adopted when he was 4 years old, and he was a very damaged man. And I believe that's why he drank. And so I went through a lot of verbal and emotional abuse. And my brothers went through some physical abuse with him. He never hit me. I don't know if it's because I was a girl or I never did anything bad enough. But I went to work at a very early age. Both my parents worked. My mother was very cold. She never hugged or kissed us. And they wanted us to have jobs. And when we had these jobs, we had to give the money to them. So I was very smart in school, and I wanted to be an English teacher. And my graduation day, they gave me a watch, my parents, and they said, we are not sending you to college because you're a girl. And girls just end up getting married and having babies. This was in
This was in the 70s?
1966. Exactly, 1966.
It's not a long time ago.
Feels like a long time, but it's still, that was my parents. I had gone to a college prep high school, and almost all people were going to college, but they wanted me to be a worker bee and stay at home. So I tried other avenues. I wanted to join the Peace Corps, maybe go in the military. I tried everything. No, 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 no. I was naive. I was young. I was intimidated by my father. So I felt stuck. The only way out of that type of situation in the 60s was to get married. And I did love the man, but he was also very damaged, and I did not know that. And I married my first husband, and I was only with him a short time because he was an alcoholic. I found out after I married him. And he didn't provide money, and he was verbally abusive. I married my father. So that's what they do sometimes. I left him. For the first time in my life, I was independent, and I got a job. I didn't like the job at all because it was in a factory. And don't forget, I wanted to be an English teacher, go to college. So I didn't want to be in a factory. So at lunch, I went to a bar restaurant not far away from the factory, and I was watching what was going on. And I called over to the owner and I said, if you ever need help, I'm available. He said, we could use a cocktail waitress. I quit the other job that day. I didn't go back from lunch. So that got me into the hospitality trade, because once I learned to be a cocktail waitress, the next step up, I learned to be a bartender. Okay. So, I'm single. I am having a lot of fun. I will be honest. We're going into the 70s, and in America, we call that the time of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, the 60s and the 70s, it was party time. And so I had never had that freedom. But I also didn't like being alone. I didn't like going home at the end of the day to an empty room. I had anxiety about that. So what happened would be I would work the bar that I was working at, go back to my women's only apartment building, and get panic attacks. And I get dressed and I would go out to the bar just to be with people. So that went on for a few years. I ended working my way up to a hotel bar, which was like the highest you could go with bartending. And a lot of politicians and gangsters and all kinds of people I never thought I'd meet in my life. And I was getting into my 20s. I want to say 23. And a little clock inside, they say you have a biological clock that tells women they need to have a baby. And I did want a baby or two. So there was.
Sorry to call you short, Mimi. When did you get divorced from your first husband?
Oh, he lasted about a year, because it was just so much like living with my parents again. Just the abuse and the drinking and him not coming home all night. And I left. It was about a year, maybe a year and a half, but I did try, and we had to move several times because he would get drunk and cause a stir, So yeah, after we moved, I bet you we moved 3 times in that year and a half.
In the space of 1 year. Wow.
Yeah. So it was really not for me. Now, I still loved him, but I knew I was suicidal at one point. I actually was suicidal. I had a suicide attempt because I was so depressed. So now after that, I am into the hotel business, working there. And there was a guy, I'm cutting out a lot, but it's in the book. Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons, has all the details. So this man was not my type. He wanted to go out with me. he just kept asking and asking. And I said, well, I don't like the way you look. Why don't you do your hair different? So he went and he did his hair different. And then he asked me out again. I said, I don't like the way you dress. Go find out how to dress nicely, which he did. I give him
Wow.
credit for that. So finally,
Dedication.
so I did go out with him, and he wined and dined me to the maximum. He made sure he took me to expensive places and really, poured it on. Now, the thing of it was, he was a very tough guy. He actually was a collector for some of the bookies in town. Do you know what a bookie is? Okay. That's where people place their gambling bets. Yeah. So if they didn't pay the bookie, they would send him, because he was 6'4", and 280 pounds. He's a very big man. I'm 5'2", by the way, and 150 now. At the time, I was like 110. So, and he also considered himself a pool hustler, which is someone who plays pool for money. Well, he wasn't that good at it because he didn't make much money at it. But I wasn't living with him or anything, so I really didn't know his financial, details.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I ended up marrying him mostly because I wanted children. Okay. The writing was on the wall when he took me to meet his mother, and after dinner, she saw that I was very nice looking and smart, and she said, "What are you doing with my son?"
Oh my goodness.
Now, when the mother says he's not good enough, you should listen.
You should listen, right?
But I didn't. So we got married. I had the first child, and it right away, I should have known. He was a liar. He was a cheat. He was a con man. He told me we were going to Las Vegas on our honeymoon. The night before our wedding, and we were supposed to leave for our honeymoon. Oh, honey, the man that owed me all that money didn't pay me, so we can't go to Las Vegas.
How convenient.
My whole marriage was like that with him.
And I mean, you were just 23, right? How old was he?
He was 5 years older. He was 28.
Older.
Yeah, he
20.
Was
okay, not too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see. Wow, that's crazy. But while you were dating, during that dating period, were there like flags, like lies and other things he did that seemed to suggest?
Not when we were dating. No, he was just trying to make the best impression. And the thing was, he was very likable. The community, the hospitality community, we were people that mostly worked at night till maybe 2 a.m. And then we would go out to breakfast or go to after hour bars, they called them. And he was very well liked. And so that kind of swayed me too. He seemed like this nice, popular guy. So after that happened and we got married and I had the first child, everything got worse. He got very controlling. He didn't want me to leave the house. He didn't want me to have a job. He wanted me to stay home with our child, which would have been okay if there was money coming in, but there was no money. So I finally had to lie and to get welfare, financial assistance from the government, or we would have starved. I had to tell them that we weren't together. And that way I got food stamps, Unfortunately, I'm trying to think, I could not take birth control pills. So I got fitted for an IUD. Do you know what that is? Okay. So it's a contraceptive method. I got pregnant with a second child. I mean, I didn't want a second child with him, you know. The doctor said, oh, well, the baby will have a toy. I said, oh, really? Because you can't take it out because then it could cause an abortion if it's attached to the fetus. So here I was with another child, this man, and it was really bad. My wedding rings, my hands got swollen when I was pregnant the second time, so I wasn't wearing my rings. And one day they were gone.
No.
I believe he sold them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's really low, isn't it? So he didn't hit me, but he was never home. He didn't bring in any money. He was jealous beyond all reason, you know. And I was dealing with poverty. A man knocked on the door one day and said, I'm here to get the television. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, Bob lost it in the card game last night. And he said he'd pick it. I said, no, that's my television. Go away. And I slammed the door in his face. I think you're seeing the character of his, or lack of character. I put up with it, maybe 6.5 years. And I tried everything, and scraping by, just it was terrible. He was never with the children because he'd be out all night gambling and losing. And then he would come and sleep all day. So, if they didn't have a father, to play with or anything. So I did one last chance. I said, go to marriage counseling with me. Okay. And I was raised Catholic, and we were married in the Catholic Church. We went to marriage counseling, and I went to Catholic Social Services. So this was a Catholic counseling place. And I tell you that for this reason. We had several visits where he didn't talk at all. The counselor couldn't get him to speak. And then the counselor said, let's see you separately. And he saw Bob twice separately. And then he saw me and he said, I'm going to tell you something right now. The door is closed. I know this is a Catholic institution. You're a smart girl. Divorce him and go to college.
Oh, wow.
Divorce him and go to college, he told me. And I did.
Good.
But
Good.
it was extremely hard. Well, when it was 1977. And I got the divorce, no problem. Now I could legally get, Medicaid and daycare.
Medicaid, food
it wasn't
stamps, all of
anything
that.
illegal.
Mhm.
And I also got free tuition to go to college.
Awesome.
That was wonderful.
Mhm.
So I was going to college, a very nice college, and he would just go wherever I was. He was stalking me. The one day he drove the car up right on the college. They call it the quad. It's a grassy square where kids hang out. He tried to run me over on the quad.
Wow. The mother of his children.
Of course.
Was he paying child support, by the way,
No.
taking care of him? No. Wow.
Oh. So I was bringing up 2 little girls trying to go to college with no child support. Oh my. So anyway, I got through like 2 years of that. I don't know how. And it was so intimidating and impossible. I didn't know what to do. I had called the police several times, and they would tell me, well, he's not here now. He left. He was just here, and he pushed me into the wall, or he hit me, but he's not here. I said, really? So the last time it happened, the policeman said, look, go buy a gun And the next time he shows up, you shoot him. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Take matters into your hands.
And he said, and if he's not inside your house, if you shoot him outside, drag him inside the house. He basically was telling me how to get away with murdering my ex-husband. Yeah, it's true. So
Oh,
I
my.
did not fight back. But I was, anxiety and depression. I found out later in life that I have them as illnesses, but I didn't know that. I just thought it was my circumstances. So finally, I tried moving out of the town, going somewhere else to college, tried everything to get away from him. I couldn't date. If I went on a date and he found out where I was, he would come there.
Oh, my goodness.
So I wouldn't get a second date.
Oh, my God. I hear this happen a lot of times with ex-husbands. Why is that? I mean, you are divorced now. You should be leading separate lives. So why wouldn't he let you move on?
No,
You know?
he wanted me. He wanted me.
Oh,
He didn't want anybody else. He still wasn't like a good father. He would tell the kids that he was taking them on the weekends, and he wouldn't show up. And I'm skipping one part. It got so bad that I was at a clam bake one day where there was a lot of people, and Scranton, even though it was a big town, everybody knew everybody. And I ran into my first husband. And there were sparks. The chemistry was still there. And I started seeing him secretly, even though I was divorced.
You had to be secret because of you.
I was having an affair as a divorced woman, okay? And my husband that's stalking me found out. And my first husband, I knew, was the only man that would stand up to him. Like, guys that just met me for the first time and we went out on one date, they weren't going to tackle this situation. So they had a couple one-on-one, I don't know, I wouldn't say it was fights. Well, yeah, I guess they were fights. But yeah, he attacked him, but Jack fought back, So he saw that he wasn't going to stop him from staying with me. So finally, after, I would say 6 months to 9 months, he realized, and Jack moved in with me. So I was protected. And he was working. He still drank, but he wasn't the way he was, I thought. And so I stayed with him, and Bob, the second husband, left me alone because he knew he couldn't get at me. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stronger guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very easy when you haven't seen someone in 10 years. It's very easy to say, oh, they're probably better now. They probably changed.
They have grown. They have matured.
But there's a saying, a leopard doesn't change their spots. And I think it was Maya Angelou that said, when someone tells you who they are, believe them. My frame of mind, I was very fragile at that time in my life. I had 2 children. And, so I stayed with Jack. I was able to buy a bar and restaurant because I am a very good salesperson. And I could have not a penny in my pocket and convince somebody to support me in a business venture, which I did. Okay. And that, thank God, that's how I survived, I think, that I was good at that.
Mm-hmm.
So, got this little bar and restaurant. And of course, my kids were in school, and Jack would bartend at night. I would bartend in the daytime. And we made a lot of money during the day. People liked me They came in. We did good. And then I'd go home to my children, and Jack would go up there, drink, and give drinks away to his friends. You can't do that. So he was basically losing money for the business. I would make it, he would lose it.
Spend it.
I can't win. So I was very attracted to Jack. I loved him very much, but he was also very damaged. And later in life, when I studied psychology, I found out not only was he an alcoholic, but he was a sex addict. And I didn't know anything about that. I don't, do you know what that is? I assume you.
No.
Oh,
Well,
sort
someone
of.
who likes to have a lot of
Well,
sex, is that what it is?
it's like, it has to be with different women, though. It can't be the same woman. Yeah. So
I didn't know that was a disorder. I just thought it was lack of discipline. I mean, why
You would
wouldn't
think.
you stick with one person? Yeah.
you would think. Well, they used to think that about drinking, too. And now they know that alcoholism is a disease and addiction is disease. Food addiction. There's a lot of things. They're realizing there's something in the brain that makes that person be addicted to certain things. So he cheated on me several times.
And you had no idea.
I would find out. I would know at first, but then somebody would tell me or I'd find out. And at the time, there was an opportunity for us to buy a home. We were renting all this time. And I thought, wow, we can buy a home. But I need $5,000 for down payment. So I wasn't making money at the bar. I was losing money. I actually had to go and apply for food stamps. And the woman said, how do you need food stamps when you own a business? And I said, well, I brought the books. I want to show you. And I told her my sad story.
Yeah, my husband gives it all away.
And I got the food stamps.
Yeah.
So he did. I forgave him many times. And the last time, so we were able to sell the bar, and we were able to buy a mobile home with 2 bedrooms. So that was lovely. No,
That's
3
good.
bedrooms. That's right. Because the girls each had their own room. So it was a very nice mobile home. And so we settled in there. Now, no more bartending. I went to school. I already had 2 years of college, right? I went to school to be a medical assistant secretary. And then I got a very good job in the doctor's office. Meanwhile, he went through jobs like crazy. He'd get a job, a week or 2, no job. Because he was drinking and he was getting fired. And he was cheating.
And I guess in the 70s, he didn't know it was something he could go get help for, like go to rehab, get help for his drinking or something.
Rehab was a word that nobody spoke back then. They really never talked about that. They might say somebody was a drunk,
Yeah.
but I also took him to counseling, made him go, and I made the appointment, and we get there, we go up to the desk, and he says, no, I can't do this, and he walked out. Yeah, I really, So
it wasn't lack of trying. You tried.
Oh my God. When you read my book, the stuff I'm leaving out, you're gonna have to have me back.
Man.
Because there's so much.
Oh wow. I am excited. I need to read this book. I hope people watching or listening
Yes.
will go get the book and read it.
I'm gonna send you the digital copy so you can read
Okay,
it.
awesome. Thank you.
And then review it and tell your friends. So of course he had to go. It was getting too much. But he'd cheat on me and I'd throw him out and he'd cry and he'd say he was sorry. He'll never do it again. I love you. I would take him back. That could only happen so many times. So finally, 1986, I was really, my own drinking was starting up. I was starting to drink, mostly at home, because I had children. Work, come home, drink. And it just was, I couldn't take any more heartbreak. And I decided, there were things that happened that when you read the book, you are going to be shocked. And I said to myself, I have to love myself more than I love him. And right now, that's not what I'm doing. And I did not take him back. That was it. I said, no. So I was divorced. I got divorced again. And I said, the only thing I want from you is sign over the mobile home, which he did. But, you know, he fought. He tried to get me back. He did everything he could. But I said, no. And so single once again, 2 children. But I have a very good job. So that's great. So things are going along really well. And I was having fun. I was dating. Nobody was stalking me. And the phone rang. And it was Bob, the father of my children, who hadn't seen his kids. He'd been absent for 7 years that I was with Jeff. And he calls, he said, oh, I heard you're single. I said, oh, no.
My goodness.
Oh,
You
no.
gotta go. No more exes. We're done.
No more exes in Texas. No. I said no. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So going down the road, cutting it a little short, I met my present husband, who I am with 37 years. Praise God.
Praise
and
God.
that tells you it was them, not me.
Yes.
Right. I knew that anyway, but this proves it.
Yes.
So he became my husband, stepfather to my children, very good man. We stayed in Scranton for many years together. We bought a bar together, a bar and restaurant, and it combined with an apartment building. And he was an alcoholic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But he didn't cheat. He didn't abuse me.
Yeah.
He had very good qualities. He was a school teacher.
Okay. And you always wanted to be a school.
And I wanted to be a teacher.
At some
But he
point,
was a
yeah.
school teacher.
Mhm.
And I went back to college and I finished and I got my bachelor's degree.
Nice. Awesome.
And I got a job teaching, but not English. I wanted to be an English teacher.
Okay.
I got a job teaching disabled people how to live alone. Wow.
That's awesome.
That was the most awesome job I ever had. Getting people out of the nursing homes. They loved me for it. And their families hated me for it.
Why would the families hate you? I mean, you're
Because they were
empowering.
worried- Because they were worried about their safety. I actually got 2 women out of nursing homes that were quadriplegic with cerebral palsy, could not speak, and could not move from the neck down. And they said to me, how are you gonna do that? I said, I'll tell you how. I would have classes, and the apartments they were getting were going to be adapted for handicap in every way. I got them computers. And at that time, we're talking a long time ago, 50 years ago, maybe. They fitted them with something around their head with a stick so they could type with that on the computer. And the computer had a voice. These women had never spoken. And the first thing, when I brought it to the first girl, Sue, she typed, people think I'm stupid because I cannot talk. I am not stupid. and you are my angel. What a job. I love that
What a
job.
job. Yeah. Oh my
So
goodness.
I was happy with that. But then I got what they call fibromyalgia. They call it other things now. But then they really didn't understand it at all. And one of the symptoms is brain fog. And I was I was on the road. I had to travel a lot. And I was forgetting how to get home. Like, from one town to another, like I'd get off the wrong exit or whatever, I was getting very upset. So I had to get disability because the anxiety was off the charts and I was very worried about my mind. And that's fine. Now, when we were 55, I already had disability. My husband had been a teacher for a long time, and there was a clause that he could retire at 55. And I said to him, let's do that and move to Florida. Because have you ever been Oregon gets bad winters? Yeah.
Rainy, cold.
Cold, right?
Yes.
I just couldn't take it anymore. The Pennsylvania winters were terrible.
I imagine, yeah. Pennsylvania, that's...
Oh my God. And we had been going to Florida for the winter. And the one year we came back mid-April and there was a foot of snow. I said, I'm done. So I said, let's sell the place. We were very lucky. There was a man that was buying up all these properties in our area. He was from New York. And a migration had started. A lot of Asian, Black, Mexican people were moving into the area. And I don't know maybe because where they lived in New York was too expensive. I don't know what it was. I just know that all of a sudden we were no longer a 90% white community. Now, I'm not prejudiced. Don't get me wrong. I'm not prejudiced. I'm just telling you that's where I lived. That's where I lived. In fact, I dated a Black kid when I was in high school, and he had to drop me off a block away.
Because he couldn't come into the white.
Well, they did. They had a section they all lived in. And I liked this kid. He liked me, but I said, you got to drop me off a block away because my father will kill me.
Your father wouldn't want to see you with a black
or
colored person.
But karma is funny because my sister, who was the baby, 10 years younger than me, she loved Black men. She loved Black men. That's all she dated. And she stood up to him. I have to laugh because she got pregnant and she had the most beautiful, intelligent, biracial. No, it's not biracial. Oh yeah, biracial. She's white. The father was white. Excuse me. Biracial son. And because she had a drug problem, my parents ended up raising him.
So your dad raised a Black kid. So what's his perception of Black people now?
Well,
is he open-minded now, or
he did a complete turn. He fell in love with the baby, Donnie, and he stopped drinking. He went to Alcoholics Anonymous, and he loved that boy with all his heart, and very proud of him. But you know, it's ironic, isn't it? Yeah. Life sends you what you need to learn. That's
exactly.
You don't
and I
see.
think his generation was also very, wrought with a lot of prejudice, racism, and all that. I'm glad for the world we live in today. This generation, the conversation is changing. People are getting more educated, more enlightened. We're all humans, right? The color of our skin doesn't, define the character of a man, right? We all bleed red. We all the same. It's just the color of the skin. So
But
I'm glad
unfortunately,
you learned that lesson.
yeah, I have to disagree a little bit because politically, the way the world is right now in the United States, I think it's still there. I think racism is still there. I think
Definitely.
prejudice against women and the gay community is there. And I'm a little worried. I don't know. I mean, they are taking away rights that people already have, and they're taking them away, which is kind of scary.
I think that's where having conversations like this, just continued conversation. And I'm glad for this generation, the Gen Z generation. I feel like they are just open to talk, their voices be heard. Like they understand human empathy more and decency, I think, compared to the previous generation, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like in the generation where maybe I grew up, even things like bullying, things like prejudice, there was no conversation about it. People did it freely. They didn't get punished, right?
Well,
For
that's how it used to be
bullying
here.
other people. But in this generation, it's changed. People are becoming, they know the mental, health issues associated with things like that. So yeah, I'm hopeful for a better tomorrow. Like you said, we
Hopeful,
still
yeah.
have a lot of, all of those
Well,
issues like
those three
racism, especially.
populations that I
Yeah.
mentioned, women,
Yes.
people of color, and the LBGQT, I don't know all the letters, they need to vote. They all need to vote because the one half of the country is not like us, like you and I. So it's turning point. What's going to happen in the next year, and
Right.
But to get back to our
Okay.
story,
I don't want to. Let's not. I feel like we're going
politics, right?
a bit into politics. Let's come back to the center here, and I think we've on
I
time.
don't
So
want to
I
run
wanted
out
to
of
lump
time.
a couple of questions for
Please.
you, and hopefully, yeah. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm so glad there's a happy ending there with meeting your husband, your third husband, and you've been together for 37 years. There's always this stigma with people who have been divorced before, especially maybe one time, two time divorcees. It's like there must be something wrong with you, right? But your story clearly shows no, not necessarily, because there's a background. You grew up, you replicated what you saw in your childhood home. Your dad was an alcoholic, and you kept on choosing men who looked like him, right? And of course, it never worked out in marriage, and so you had to keep doing it until you got it right. So congratulations on that. I'm happy, you have a happy marriage now, and life is going on well. The question I had for you was for your husband, your third husband now. What were the things, I know you said you also had a bit of alcoholic problem. Aside that, what were the things about him, the things you saw in him that made you, feel like this is someone who I could work with? Because I don't believe you're just in that marriage because you don't want to move on to the next person. I'm sure you're in it because he's a good man. He might not be perfect. No one is perfect. And both of you are making it work right. Are you maybe doing things like therapy, counseling more frequently?
No, what happened was because we had a bar and everything, and because I did not know that I actually had chronic depression and panic disorder, I didn't know that. I was self-medicating when I drank. That's called. And I didn't know that that's what I was doing. I went to rehab. I got treatment. I got sober. He came to visit the rehab. And he said, "Oh, honey, I gave up drinking for you." And I said, "That's lovely, but we have to sell the bar." And I had only been there 5 days. So he said, "What did they do to you in 5 days?" So he didn't want to. He struggled a little bit, but then we did. We sold the bar, and he started going to AA meetings, which really was important, And he has let's see, 34 years sober. Yeah. And so do I.
Congrats. That's good.
So
Awesome. I like that.
now you know a man loves you when he has been
When
drinking
he's willing.
his whole life.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but
yes.
the little fly in the ointment, which is life, and that's goes in with the title of your show, Life as We See It. We were here a few years. It was wonderful. We have grandchildren. They come to visit. And then 12 years ago, he got diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And I got breast cancer. I had an infection that they had to remove 85% of my stomach. So we were both quite ill for a while, you know. I've done everything I can to be at the best health I can be today, but I'm a caregiver also because he is progressing, you know. So what we said, you go to counseling. We go to a prayer group once a week on Zoom.
I like that. So there's a faith component now in it.
Yes, we belong to a spiritual community. We meditate. We do all the things we can to enjoy the simple things in life and the moment we have. And I'll turn to him and I'll say, we're having a moment. This is this nice. We could just be sitting together quietly. So that is a very condensed version of the story.
Your story. Wow, congratulations on your breast cancer, survival as well.
Yes.
I mean, you've been through so much, and I wouldn't know. I mean,
nobody.
You don't look like it.
Every time somebody says, "But you look fabulous," and I go, "Wait, I'll get my CAT scan." But life is what you make of it. But the first step is loving yourself enough to make the hard decisions. So it took me a while to know that. And that's when things changed. So I actually wrote 4 books now and have a podcast.
Yeah. Wow. 4 books. Okay. So what inspired your writing your memoir? The first book, then the subsequent.
I went into counseling because, again, I have depression and anxiety disorder. I got help because I saw I was getting depressed. 2020 and his Parkinson's getting worse. I was getting depressed. And my counselor said, every day go in your room and shut the door for an hour. Have your me time. And write. And I said, I'm not a writer. She said, yes, you're a writer. Can you type? I said, yes. She said, just type, whatever it comes to. So the easiest thing was to write my story. And before I knew it, I had a book. So you see now, Raised by Wolves, you heard my parents, what they were like, trapped by demons, you heard about the men. And then,
so that's the connection. Okay. Raised by was trapped by demons. I see.
And then finding out I had my own demons and going for help for that. So it's dark, of course, in the beginning, but then there's an inspirational turn in the book. I think you'll enjoy it.
I will. I'm sure I will. I'm really looking forward to the digital copy and, so what will you say to someone out there who has been through all of this type of life experience and have come out on the other side, or maybe is still in it, maybe also suffering from depression, anxiety, panics? What's your message?
The still in it part. What I think is very important is, first of all, to accept that you have something wrong. Accept that something's wrong. So then you have labeled it. And then you need to tell somebody. You have to tell another person. Could be a friend, could be a doctor. And then I really believe strongly in talk therapy. Like I see my counselor every 2 weeks, and it's a blessing. It's a blessing. So yeah, that's it. Reach out to other people. Admit you have a problem. Tell somebody.
Tell
And talk.
somebody, talk to someone. That's good.
That works
Awesome.
better
Thank you
than
so
any
much.
drug.
It's
Or
actually
man.
true. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that's true. And like you, I think I'm taking something from your story, like writing, right? Because there's power in just being able to. There are things maybe you might feel like I don't want to share with anyone, like it's so heavy in my heart, right? If you can talk to someone about it, just write it down, put pen to paper, start
And
writing.
you don't have to show it to anyone.
And you don't have to show it. Yes, exactly.
I had this very urgent desire to help other women. So I wrote the book and I left out nothing. Even things that I did that were wrong, I left out nothing. And anyone that's read my book will tell you that it's like she's talking right to you and she's very honest. I don't leave anything out. I wanted it out
Awesome.
because what I went through and survived and had the life I have today, that shows that anything's possible for anyone.
That's true. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Mimi, what are you currently working on? And where can people find you, find your books, find your work, everything?
My books are on Amazon. And also, if you just Google my name, if you just Google Mimi Tallo, all the books come up. My podcast is on anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's on all of them. And it's called Be Heard, Empower Yourself. I have a website, and that's called Be Heard Women Empowering Women, because that's more geared towards women. The other books, the second book, we could do a whole show on that because my father was adopted. He was lied to. He believed he was Italian, half Italian. And when he died and I did DNA, the report came back and it said, your father is 100% Irish.
Oh, lived all his life thinking he was Italian.
And I thought it was half Irish, not 100%. So I didn't think I was half. I thought it was a quarter. So I went and did research back to the 18th century, County Mayo, Ireland, and found out everything about my ancestors and wrote a book called Unearthing My Irish Roots, which is also a bestseller on Amazon under semi-fictional history. The history is true. The fiction is I gave them all a little story. Because of course I don't know what my great-great-grandfather did for a living. Yeah. So that was my second one.
Nice. Wow.
And now I'm working on, you're going to love this, The Anatomy of an Alien.
Are aliens real?
Well, look up starseed people on the internet, and you'll find out there's a whole research paranormal type thing that there are other beings besides Earth. People do believe that. Like, how could we be the only beings in this big universe? Like, if you have an open mind, you could believe there might be. So I also have a lot of unusual medical things that I have found through the years where every single doctor said, I never saw that before. Or that organ is usually more to the left. Like I'm always something off, different. So this is a paranormal medical book. It's about my medical history and how I could be a starseed person.
Interesting. Never heard of that, really.
I do every type of book, right? History, memoir, paranormal psychology.
I can't believe your love for writing came from your counselor asking you to write.
Right?
Yeah.
I know.
Amazing.
I know.
Oh boy. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. So I'm working on that one now.
Okay. And then the fourth one.
That's the fourth one. I skipped them.
Oh, that's the fourth one.
The third one is called Be Heard, Surviving Your Demons And that one is a workbook for
Okay.
healing trauma and abuse. And I could do a whole story about that one, but that's out and that's on Amazon. And all of these books are on Audible. And my first 2 books are translated into Spanish and Italian.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
want to
wide
reach
range.
everybody.
Right. No, that's a good one. Spanish and Italian.
Yeah.
That's a huge
And it's
demographic
all
as well,
Amazon and Audible. It's
and all
like I
that.
said,
Okay.
type in Mimi Tallo and you will find everything.
Find it. Yeah. And then your podcast name is
Be Heard, Empower Yourself.
Be Heard, Empowered Yourself. So I'm going to put the description, in the description box, I'll put all of Mimi's work, title to all her books, the Amazon link, and also her podcast, the link and all that. So you can just visit.
I will email you all the exact links.
Exactly.
Okay.
Awesome. That would be very helpful. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to Mimi's story. She's such a wonderful storyteller. Your story is so inspiring. You know, there is hope. There is something good at the end of the tunnel, no matter what you're going through, right? We're shaped by our childhood experiences, and don't beat yourself up too much if you've made mistakes in relationship, marriage, friendship, whatever. There is hope for you. It's not the end of the road. So hope this story really, blessed you, ministered to you. Please like, subscribe, follow us on on Spotify, Apple. We're everywhere as well, where you can listen to podcasts, and keep coming back for more amazing content. Thank you so much, Mimi. Appreciate your time here, and I'll be in communication with you.
And maybe I'll come back for each book. I could.
Yes, probably invite Mimi over again. Yes, please let us know in the comment section as well. We want to hear more of your amazing
work. I
love
talking to you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. You're welcome, Mimi.